Jason, surprisingly enough, is still using the pitchfork. And for most of the movie, he's still not really shown. So that's almost 3 movies in a row now where the killer is just, not really seen until the final act because it would be boring if it was a first person killer chasing the final girl for most of the movie. So our so-called characters are this girl Chris, who is absolutely amazing. She was the only good part of this movie. Rick, who didn't really do anything. This sexist dude Shelly, who's actually the one that gives Jason the mask. The most iconic mask in horror movie history is given to Jason by a sexist dude he killed. Very weird. He he thinks a girl is obligated to date him because he's nice to her and they spent a good amount of time together. And when she's like, "No, I'm sorry. I don't want to date you. I'll come back inside and talk to you in a few minutes more about it." So he acts all nice about it, but as soon as she leaves the room, he calls her a bitch. And then right after, he goes outside and scares her and says, "A pretty woman shouldn't be outside. It's dangerous at night." What the fuck? Are you seriously gonna make a joke about the fact that women get killed at night? And that a lot of women are, afraid to walk home at night? That's crazy. Especially knowing the behind the scenes of literally just the previous movie, how one of the actors was stalked after the first movie. It's crazy. Anyways, that's not really the point of this movie review, so our other two characters are stoners, and that's really all they do. They like smoke in every scene. They're still kind of interesting characters, but literally every scene they are in, it's just them smoking, besides like the scene where they die and a scene where he makes popcorn and a scene where they establish that he's kind of a scaredy cat. The woman, her character development is that she doesn't really like his sex, and that's all of hers. And then she's the one that finds Shelly when he dies, and she has like not a very good acting reaction, but it's definitely not the worst I've seen. Chris really carried this movie. Like, I didn't give a shit about this movie. It was kind of corny to me, to be honest, especially with the music at times. Like, not even the iconic Jason music. There was just like weird music throughout that a lot of times just did not fit at all. And it just made the movie kind of corny and cheesy. Like a really old bad horror movie, and this is one of those, movies in an iconic series. It's crazy. But that's just my opinion. This movie's also supposed to be in 3D, but I got it on DVD and it didn't come with 3D glasses, and it also had a 2D version. So I watched that. The movie also opens up once again with, what happened in the previous movie, even though it literally doesn't matter in this movie. Because the previous girl from the previous movie that survived is not in the movie. There's one scene where they talk about how she's going to a mental hospital, and that is it. And they, in the beginning of the movie, is establishing her character. Why is that needed in this movie with a bunch of different people? That's so stupid. That's like if Guardians of the Galaxy 2 opened up with, talking about Ronan. Like, who the fuck cares? Ronan isn't in this movie. He's not important anymore. Really completely different villains now. It's dumb. It literally doesn't make any sense. A lot of the kills are way more brutal in this movie. And are, really good looking. Besides the one with Rick's death, does not look the best. But I can appreciate what they were trying to go for because it's an 80s movie. Jason, like, might have raped Chris in this movie. They don't say exactly what happened. But he didn't kill her. And that's kind of his whole thing. And she didn't escape. She didn't beat him up. So, she like black out and she doesn't remember what happened, and she remembered being in her bed and her parents not saying anything about it. It's very weird. And they also, Jason's like a little bitch in this movie. She takes the knife out of her friend Debbie's back when she finds Debbie in a closet that she was hiding in. And she starts swinging it at Jason. She's kind of scared. She's not really doing much. But he's a scared little bitch. He's just backing away and backing away and backing away. She stabs him like twice, once in the leg, another in another part that I forgot. She just manhandles him. She fucking hangs him. This is why I really like Chris. She was kicking his ass. But he was a little bitch in that knife scene. There's no reason for him to react like that. If you watch it, he just looks like a scaredy cat. It's like he's fighting a normal human and not Jason Voorhees, who, got hung and then stabbed in the head with an axe. I also have other characters in the movie that I think make it a little bit more interesting, so it's not too much of a horror cliche. These random thugs that get mad at Shelly and this other girl while they're at a store because they siphon the gas and make it so they lose a bunch of their gas, which matters later. So it's not the typical horror cliche like their car's in the shop, their car isn't working, their car is old. Just some bullshit on why the car doesn't work, or the killer popped the tires or something. Some dudes they fucked with, pissed off, took their gas. So later when they need the car, they're fucked. And I think that's way better than what most horror movies do. Though I do not like that they found them way too easily. Because he runs over their bike and then he leaves and they're like nowhere in sight. So how the hell did they find them? And why did they siphon the gas of that van? Because it was the other dude's yellow car that took it. That, ran over the bikes. He was the one that pissed him off. That could have just been a random stranger that was visiting. That wouldn't really have gotten anyone back. Why didn't they siphon the gas of the yellow car? Though that car does have the horror cliche issue of how it doesn't start. The van doesn't. That's the one they siphon the gas from. Surprisingly enough, the dude Ali survives like almost the entire movie because he got knocked out by Jason and they need someone to save Chris, so he appears and gets his hand chopped off and dies. Yeah. He was not in like almost the entire movie just for him to show up for like 5 seconds. Very good use of an actor. Overall, the only thing that I liked about this movie was Chris's awesome, action-packed fight with Jason. She kicked his ass every second. But overall, this movie was definitely kind of corny, and I didn't really care for any of the characters but her. So yeah, that's really about it. There's some cool gory deaths, but that doesn't make up for the movie.